Hi, welcome to my channel. I'm Beatrix Snyman from Beatrix Designs. Here you will learn how to master Tunisian crochet and much more. If you don't want to miss anything, remember to subscribe and hit the bell, or you can visit my website at www.beatrixdesigns.co.za. Enjoy! Today we will learn how to master Tunisian crochet. To get started, we have to look at the very basics of Tunisian crochet, and we will start with the foundation chain and the foundation row. I will also share a few tips and tricks with you as we go along. Just like in knitting and conventional crochet, Tunisian crochet requires a base on which we build the rows. For that purpose, we use the foundation chain. First, we will start with a slip knot. And here I will share my first tip with you. When you make your slip knot, like this is the way that I make my slip knot, do not pull the slip knot tight like we normally do when we start with a loop on the hook. Leave the slip knot open like a chain, about the size of the chains that you will continue to make. Continue to make your chains. For the purpose of the tutorial, I think we can work on about 10 chains. Let's see how many we have here. The slip knot that we did not close will count as our first chain. So here we will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 chains. When you count your chains, remember it's much easier to count the outside loop instead of the holes that are created by the chains. In Tunisian crochet, there are certain rules that define this skill. The first rule that I will share with you is when you made your foundation chain, the amount of chains will equal the required stitch count for your project. So when you make, for example, in our case, we made 10 chains, the amount of stitches that I will work on this foundation chain will be equal to 10 as well. Another rule in Tunisian crochet is that we work in the back bar of the chain. Your chain consists of 3 loops, of which you have your back loop, your front loop, and when you turn it to the back side, you will find the back bar, which is not a loop but a bar. And in conventional crochet, there are 3 different ways that you can work in your foundation chain. The first one is when you insert your hook underneath the back loop only. The second way is when you insert the hook under the back loop and the back bar. Or in other words, just above your front loop. And then you get the third option where you insert the hook into the back bar of your chain. And that is the way that we will work our foundation row into the foundation chain. The reason why it is done in the back bar is, first of all, it gives you a very neat edge. If you can see, this is the top edge of this piece. there's the bottom piece that was worked in the back bar only. On your side, it looks exactly the same. It creates these V formations. Just like the top of your crochet work, your stitches create these V's. At the bottom, it will have the same look. On the side, it will have the same look. And even on the left side, it will have the same appearance. So it gives a very neat edge of your piece. I don't know how many of you tried Tunisian crochet before, but when I started on Tunisian crochet, I really struggled at times to find the right loop or this back bar to work in. Sometimes it happens that the loops of the chains become sloppy and twisted. And I can show you an example. Let's look at this chain. If I really pull on it, you can clearly see that this is the front of your chains, and this is the back of the chain, because the back appears bumpy because of the back bar, and the front have a smooth feel to it when you run your finger over it. But sometimes, and I'm just going to create a very sloppy chain so that I can show you what I want to explain to you here. Does this appear sloppy enough? It seems twisted now and all confusing. Yes, this is perfect. Just get my hook here so I can point to you what I want to explain. You can't really identify the different loops, the back loop and the front loop and the back bars on this piece of chain. Therefore, it is important to me to get you familiar with the stitch anatomy of the chain specifically, as well as the way that the chain gets formed. When you understand the pathway of the yarn, how it creates the chain, you will find it easier to find that back bar that you need to work into. So let me show you how a chain is formed so that you can become familiar with the pathway of your yarn and the anatomy of each chain. You see the loop on the hook? It gives also that appearance of the V, like we saw on our edges of this crochet piece. This V, or the loop that's on the hook, will become the back bar and the front bar of your chain, or the back loop and the front loop of your chain. When I do my yarn over, this yarn over of my working yarn create the back bar on the back of my chain. There you go. Again, yarn over to create the back bar, pull it through the loop that was on the hook, and there you have your chain with the back bar. If I hold it this way, like normal crochet, you will see the back bar, the back loop, the front loop, and the back bar of my chain. So when I bring back this sloppy chain, how will I identify the different loops and the bar on this chain? Because you saw the way that the chain was created here. You have the loop that will be the back bar and the back loop and the front loop. I'm sorry about getting confused there. here I can identify my back loop and my front loop, back loop and a front loop, back loop and a front loop. Here it becomes confused. Here it seems like a back bar that appears on the front. And again, I can see it's flat here on the front, so it can be my back bar and my back loop and my front loop. So how will I, if I need to turn it over, and I can identify a bar there, a bar there, a bar there, but here it becomes confusing because of this twist. Now, if I can follow my path of the chain, I can see that the bar goes into the center between my two loops, and it comes out on the front here to become another loop, and it goes in there and it links with the next bar. So the bar links there with the loop that was on the hook. So if I follow it this way, what I sometimes do is I'm just pulling on this chain. And look what's happening. The back bar pops back to the back of the chain so that I can identify it more easily again. There you can find it, and here you can find it. Now this, with working with this yarn, it's a heavier weight yarn and a bigger hook, but the minute that you go with lightweight yarns and the smaller hook size, it might become more difficult to identify that back bar when the chain becomes twisted and sloppy like this. So this is unpreventable for some. I found in my classes some of the students really struggle, especially when you're a beginner, to get a nice and neat foundation chain so that you can easily identify all the different loops and the bar when you start on the foundation. So for that reason, I really want you to become familiar with this path that your yarn is creating, the chain, so that when you do work your foundation chain, you can easily identify where all the loops and the bar is. Let's continue with our first row, which is always referred to as the foundation row. One row consists of a forward pass where we will pick up the loops from the foundation chain, and then a return pass, which is when we work these loops down from the hook until only one loop remains. During the return pass, each loop gets interlocked with a chain, but I will show you what I mean with that shortly. Another rule in Tunisian crochet is that the first back bar, which lies right here against the loop that's on the hook, and it goes into the last chain that was made. This back bar belongs to the chain that is already on the hook. So this bar we will skip, and we will continue to work in the second bar from the hook. We will yarn over, pull up a loop through the second back bar. So you will see now we have two loops on the hook. The first loop was the last loop when we made chains, but it's now the first loop of our forward pass on our foundation row, and the very first bar that you could identify belongs to that loop that's on the hook, that was on the hook. The second loop that we made, we pulled from the second bar, and we will continue to pull up loops from the back bar of each chain. When you struggle to get your hook inserted in the stitches, it's easy to use your forefinger to just help the hook to poke through the stitches. Now when we get to the slip knot that we made at the beginning, you can see as we got familiar with the stitch anatomy, with the anatomy of the chain, you can see now where the back bar of the slip knot is. So it looks similar to a chain. It's got a back loop, a front loop, and a back bar. And this is where I will insert my hook. Pull up the last loop. Now the trick with a slip knot is that after you worked your last stitch into the back loop of your slip knot, you can pull on the yarn tail so it closes that slip knot, and it works basically like a magic ring. And you will see in this case I also did it, and it eliminates that ugly corner with a knot that is normally created on your foundation chain with the first row that you work. Either is it conventional crochet or Tunisian crochet. To continue with my return pass, I will yarn over and pull a loop through the first loop that was on the hook. So basically what I did here is I made one chain. To continue with the rest of the loops, I will yarn over, and from here I will pull it through two loops. Can you see the loop that was on my hook in the front? It creates a chain, but the one that was on the hook, it just gets dropped off the hook. Again, this one will create a chain. This one, the loop that's on the hook, will get dropped off when I yarn over and pull through two loops. Yarn over, pull through two loops. Yarn over, pull through two loops. And I will continue like this until I have one loop left on my hook. Yarn over, pull through two loops, yarn over, pull through two loops, yarn over through two, yarn over through two. And now you can see what I mentioned earlier, that the loops that you collected on the hook during your forward pass gets interlocked with chain stitches in between. And this was my foundation row.
Hope you enjoyed this video. If you found anything valuable, please share this with your crochet friends. Also, you can leave a comment if there's anything that you would like to see in the future. And remember to subscribe. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.